Good morning. This is Saturday and we are live. We're using StreamYard this morning to broadcast to 3 different social media, into the YouTube AgentPrep channel, to the AgentPrep Facebook group, and to the AgentPrep business page. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Today's video is going to be about Texas questions. We're continuing Texas questions that we left out on chapter 4 or exam 4. So we're going to finish those out and do about 30 minutes of questions, or let's see how long it takes us. So stay tuned, y'all. Get ready. So this is Wild Lily Handy from San Antonio, Texas, coming to you with Agent Prep to help you prepare for your Texas state exam. So as I mentioned, we are covering state questions today. And as you're seeing on the screen, this is the book that I'm using, Texas Real Estate Sales Exam. Okay, it is 4th edition, and it is an old book, but it is awesome. The questions are excellent. There's only a few of the state questions that are outdated. All right, so with that said, let's get going. Oh, and the reason why I love this book, it has 4 exams, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it's got glossary review, your vocabulary that you must know, math review, basics, a little bit of a refresher course, how to prepare for the exam, and an intro to real estate sales exam. All right, with that said, let's go to state questions. And we are continuing with question 95. So the state questions are from 81 to 110. And so on Wednesday, we started exam number 1. However, I forgot that we had a few more questions on exam number 4. So I'm getting those done today. All right, question number 95. And reminder for those of you that have been here before, and for anybody that's new, type in the question number and the answer when you're participating and typing in your answer. And hopefully you gave Facebook permission to post your name on StreamYard. All right, number 95. Using the Texas Real Estate Commission promulgated 1 to 4 family residential resale form, which of the following is not acceptable not acceptable language for paragraph 11, special provisions. So A, time is of the essence when interpreting the provisions of this agreement. B, buyer may do a walkthrough within the 24 hours prior to closing. C, seller will pay for the appraisal as required in paragraph 12. Or D, seller will remove the playground equipment in the backyard prior to closing and funding. So I typically give you a little bit of time to put your answer. So go ahead and type in your answer in the chat. So which one is not acceptable language for paragraph 11, special provisions? All right. So the answer for that is A, time is of the essence when interpreting the provisions of this agreement. That is already stated in different sections of the contract, 1 to 4 family residential resale form, and also on the third party addendum. So 95A. All right, I'm pulling up the Facebook page so that I can also see whoever is present on there. And I can check and see who's answering questions. And we'll get going with question 96. And actually, let me zoom this so we can see a little bit larger. Oops, too large. All right, number 96. A broker has a listing agreement signed by a seller and a buyer representation agreement signed by a buyer who is interested in purchasing the seller's property. Both parties have granted the broker permission to function as intermediary through the written representation agreements. The buyer tells the broker that if he is successful in acquiring this property, he plans to purchase the surrounding property also. What should the broker tell the seller about this information? A, disclose it to the seller. B, withdraw from the transaction. C, do nothing. Or D, wait and disclose it after closing. Remember, always eliminate 2 questions right away. And then that leaves you with 2. And from there, select your correct answer if you're not sure what the actual answer is. Okay, anybody taking a chance? Okay, so here it says both parties have granted the broker permission, so that's the buyer and the seller. The buyer tells the broker that if he is successful in acquiring this property, he plans to purchase the surrounding property. What should the broker tell the seller about this? Remember, the broker is an intermediary. Okay? It says broker functions as an intermediary. So what can the intermediary do, the broker, when they've got both the buyer and the seller? So 96 is C, nothing. The broker cannot advise or tell the other party any information. Okay, because that is confidential, and they are representing the client because a buyer agent represents the buyer and a seller agent represents the seller. They're the ones that advise the client. And you're not supposed to disclose what your client wants to do or doesn't want to do to the other side. That is confidential. So that's part of our fiduciary responsibilities, right? Not to share anything about our client with anybody else. Okay, so I forgot to show you. So question 95 was A, and question 96 is C. All right, question 97. Under the canons of professional ethics and conduct for brokers and salespersons, as promulgated by the Texas Real Estate Commission, what is the primary duty of real estate agents? Okay, so we are realtors. What is our number one duty? A, to treat all parties to a transaction fairly. B, to represent the interest of their clients. C, to use prudence and caution. And D, to reveal any latent defects. So think about it, read the question again before answering. Nobody's taking a risk? All right, the answer is 97B. Fidelity, the first duty under Texas Real Estate Commission canons of professional conduct, calls for the licensee to place the interest of the principal or client, right? The principal and the client is same, above all other interests, including our own. So we're getting paid, okay, by the seller or by our seller or by the listing agent when we represent the buyer. So they are our priority. So 97B. All right, number 98, moving right along. Gertrude Goodhart always said that her two best friends would inherit her property when she died. So she verbally said it. 6 months ago, she died without having gotten around to writing a will. She has no living relatives. What will happen to her property? A, it will be divided between her church and the people who take care of her immediately prior to her death. B, since she told many people of her wishes, it will be divided equally between her two best friends. C, it will be sold to the highest bidder at a public sale conducted by the probate court. Or D, it will become the property of the state of Texas under the state's legal provision. So what happens when an individual doesn't have a will before they pass away? You know, hearsay, who knows? We don't know for sure, right? There would have to be a bunch of affidavits done to prove that. But if they don't have a will, where does it go? What happens to it? What happens to any property that Gertrude Goodhart had or owned? Okay, take a moment to read the question and type in the question and the answer. All right, so the answer is 98D. It will become the property of the state of Texas under the state's legal provisions. So this is an intestate. So the person dies without a will. Number 98D. Number 99. A seller received an offer last evening and is considering how to respond to it. While the seller is still thinking about the first offer, another offer is given to the listing agent. What should the listing agent do? A, present the second offer immediately. B, hold the second offer until the seller makes a decision about the first offer. C, call the agent who brought the first offer and tell them about the second offer. D, tell the seller that he needs to hurry up and make a decision about the offer he has in his possession. So what do we do when we get multiple offers? The answer is A, present the second offer immediately. As soon as we get any offers from a buyer, from a buyer agent, we are to present them to the seller, even though they may already have an offer in hand. So at that point, especially in this market today, 2021, it's a very competitive market. It's a seller's market, and sellers are getting a lot of multiple offers. Therefore, we'll inform the buyer's agent to have their buyers present their highest and best. And we'll usually put a deadline for that. And so we may get, 5 offers, 10, 15, 20, 30. Some individuals were getting a lot of offers, 50 to 60 offers. It was going crazy. So lots of competition. Why? Because there were not enough listings, not enough seller properties. So 99A. Present all offers immediately to the seller, no matter how many they already have. Okay, number 100. Which of the following people would need to obtain a real estate license if they were involved in a real estate activity? A, the executor of an estate. B, a court-appointed guardian. C, a trustee of the bankruptcy court. Or D, one who sells lots in a mobile home park. So which of the following people would need to obtain a real estate license if they were involved in real estate activities such as the following? A, the executor of an estate. B, the court-appointed guardian. C, the trustee of a bankruptcy court. Or one who sells lots in a mobile home park. Who is required to have a license? So those of you who are coming in a little bit later, we are doing Texas State questions, and this is on exam number 4. So remember to write your question number and then the answer. The answer is 100D. One who sells lots in a mobile home park is required to have a real estate license. An executor is from an individual who has a will. Okay, and that executor will follow through with the individual's will to sell their property. A court-appointed guardian, when there is no will and it goes to probate, or the courts will appoint a guardian. C, a trustee of the bankruptcy. So if in the state of Texas, we have a deed of trust, that is a mortgage. So whenever someone defaults on it, it goes into foreclosure or into bankruptcy, there is a trustee that holds the deed of trust and follows the instructions on how to perform a bankruptcy or a sale on that property. So the only person here that's required to have a real estate license is a mobile home park individual, a person that sells mobile home park. So the answer was 100D. All right, 101. When does an offer become a binding contract? Okay, so the first 1 to 4 residential resale or a condo or land unimproved or commercial, when does it become a binding contract? A, when the last party has signed and the other party has been notified. When the signed contract has been delivered to the title company. C, when there is a meeting of the minds and earnest money tendered. Or D, when one party states verbally that the written offer is accepted. Take a moment to think about it and type in your answer. Okay, this is the best time to participate. So go ahead, participate. If for some reason, your answer is incorrect, hey, it's okay. I will explain the correct answer and why the one that you picked was not accurate. So when does an offer become a binding contract? Don't be shy. Come on, participate. 101A, when the last party has signed and the other party has been notified. If there are any counters or if it's accepted right away. So let's say the buyer makes the offer and it's presented to the seller by the listing agent and that seller accepts it. Well, now that listing agent has to inform the buyer agent, and the buyer agent informs the buyer, and that's when it becomes binding. That buyer agent needs to put the executed date on it. Okay, so when the last party has signed and the other party has been notified. So 101A is the correct answer. Good morning, Deborah. How are you? Thank you for joining us. All right, 102. These are state questions. What is a broker who is authorized to present both of the parties in a transaction called? A universal agent, B, an intermediary, C, a mediator, or D, a facilitator. What is a broker who is authorized to represent both of the parties in a transaction called? So you see, like here, when you know the vocabulary, you'll be able to answer the questions. Okay, Deborah says 102B. Anybody else? And yes, that is correct. Intermediary, because that broker represents the buyer and the seller through the appointment of a buyer agent and a listing agent. Very good. So for those of you that gave Facebook a permission to show your name, you'll see it like here with Deborah. You'll be able to see the name. Thank you, Deborah. Okay, number 103. All of the following are violations of the Texas Real Estate Act except A, taking a net listing, B, commingling, C, accepting a secret profit, or D, not disclosing a dual agency. So which of the following are violations except for one? So, I'm sorry, all of the following are violations except one. So who else is going to type in an answer? Come on. All of you who are here, go ahead and participate. Deborah says A, taking a net listing. Who else is going to take a chance at this? So which is it? Which one is not a violation of the Texas Real Estate Act? Taking a net listing, commingling, accepting a secret profit, or not disclosing a dual agency. And Deborah is correct. It is 103A. See, I want you all to participate. Like Deborah, go ahead and write your answer so that I can help you. 104. Let's see if I can make it any larger. Oops. So I guess that'll be the largest. Okay. 104. A licensee must present the information about brokerage services that we call IABS. That's the acronym. To all prospective sellers and buyers at the first substantive dialogue. The definition of a substantive dialogue is what? A substantive discussion at the first meeting involving a specific property. B, any discussion when meeting a prospect with the exception of those at an open house. C, a meeting or written communication that involves a substantive discussion regarding a specific property. Or D, any discussion with a prospect, including a meeting, telephone conversation, or email. And today we even have texting, right? So go ahead and write your answer, the number, and the letter. All right, so Deborah says D. Anyone else? I have to be careful when I type. I say one thing and it could be another. Okay, the answer here is 104C. A meeting or written communication that involves a substantive discussion regarding a specific property. The last one says any discussion with a prospect, including a meeting, telephone conversation, or an email. Okay, you could be talking about a lender or some other conversation, the day, the weather. Well, that is not discussing a specific property. Okay, so the first one said a substantive discussion at the first meeting involving a specific property. C says a meeting or written communication that involve a substantive discussion regarding a specific property. Okay, so it could have been A or C. B said any discussion when meeting a prospect with the exception. So any discussion, really? Are you talking about real estate, or are you talking about your kids, your animals, an event? You know, that is not talking about specific properties. So B and D, I'm sorry, A and C talk about a specific property. So that is the clue. That is the key word. Good. I'm glad you got that. And you know, I learn these even better every time that I do them. I've been doing this for over 8 years. All right, number 105. A licensed salesperson that does not have a sponsoring broker has an inactive license, right? So this person is what? A, may accept referral fees, but not engage in any direct real estate sales or leasing services. B, may not perform any real estate services or receive any fees from such services or receive any referral fees from a broker. C, may perform real estate services as long as he or she does not accept any form of payment. Or D, may perform real estate services under the legal department of Texas Real Estate Commission, known as TREC. Okay, so if you're a licensed salesperson, but your sponsoring broker has an inactive license, then what can you do? So you're active. However, your broker, where we hang our license, right, is not active. That broker is inactive. So we're an associate to the broker. So if the broker goes inactive, what happens to us? Okay, come on, type your answer. I am waiting. Okay, Deborah says C. Think about that some more, please. Reread the question. A licensed salesperson that does not have a sponsoring broker has an active, oh my gosh. So, I'm sorry, not the sponsoring broker is inactive. Excuse me. You see what? That's why it's important to reread the question. So the licensed person, so like yourself, once you pass your exam, you're going to be in inactive status. You don't have a sponsoring broker yet. So what can you do when you are inactive? So sorry, I misread the question. I read the question correctly. However, I explained it wrong. The broker is active, but the realtor does not have, actually, they're not a realtor yet. The licensed salesperson is still in inactive status according to TREC. Ooh, sorry. Hi, Sandy and Kevin. Okay, so who's going to answer this question? So I've got A. Okay, remember, we are inactive. We do not have a sponsoring broker. Can we do business before we are under a broker? No, we cannot. So Deborah says B, and that is correct. May not perform any real estate services or receive any fees from such services or receive any referral fees from any broker. We are not licensed yet. Okay, we are inactive status. So we cannot talk about real estate. We cannot receive referrals, any commission, nothing until we select a sponsoring broker. So once you pass your exam, TREC is going to have on your account inactive status. Then you're going to start interviewing brokers, which I want you to interview with me at eXp Realty because I am looking for realtors to join me. Okay, we're an awesome company. Then you're going to select a broker and your license will move on to that broker. Now you are an active broker. So if you move with eXp or whoever you select, then you become an active broker. Okay, not any other time before that. You cannot talk or represent anybody. You can have people, and you can let people know that, hey, I'm about to get my be licensed, okay, with a broker. So as soon as I am, if you can wait for me, I will help you with any real estate activities. Prior to that, I cannot discuss real estate with you. So the answer is B, may not perform any real estate services or receive any fees from such services or receive any referral fees from any broker. Why? I'm inactive. Okay. So 105B. That was good that you changed your answer, Deborah. Hey, and just want to say here that if you're on my YouTube channel, please make me feel loved and subscribe to my channel. Click the little bell so that you get notified anytime I upload or go live, and like my video. Okay, then I will get noticed by YouTube and they'll promote my channel. So that's the least that I ask for. That's the least that you can do for me, is to subscribe to my channel and also to like the Facebook post. All right, number 106. Oh, and for those of you that just came in, this is Wow Lily Handy with Agent Prep out of San Antonio, Texas, and with eXp Realty. Number 106, what penalties would a licensee face if, while on inactive status, he or she completes a lease negotiation or sells the property? What did we just talk about inactive? What can you not do? Talk about real estate to anybody, try to represent them or collect any fees. So what penalties would a licensee face if, while on inactive status, he or she completes a lease negotiation or sells the property? Oops. A, none, since a valid license is held. B, the full penalty provisions of the Act. C, a reprimand. D, an administrative penalty. I stressed a lot about inactive status, inactive status. You cannot practice real estate under an inactive status nor receive any type of money. Big no-no. So type your answer. I'm waiting. Take a chance. This is the time to do it. Okay, Deborah says B. And yes, Deborah, you are correct. 106B. A full penalty provisions of the Act is what will be given to that licensee who is in inactive status. Now, we're not saying that some people don't do it. They do, but that's illegal. That's, going against the law. You're under penalty. You cannot be performing those activities. So never, never, never go there. And let's say an agent has been a realtor. However, their license, they didn't renew their license in time, they go inactive. Okay. Truck does give us 60 days if we don't finish our courses within the deadline of our renewal date, and we'll have to pay an additional penalty of $200. Okay. And we'll get 60 days extra to finalize our courses. If we don't do our renewal classes, continuing education, if we don't complete our courses within then we become inactive status. And anything that we have, transactions, listings, or whatever, they move on to our broker until we get our license back into active status. Okay? So it can happen to go inactive even after you've been a licensed realtor. However, don't complete your education, continuing education. Ooh, I have to make it smaller to see all of it. Okay, number 107. We'll go ahead and go all the way to 110 to complete this chapter or this exam. Long one. These long questions on the test, sometimes I skip them and come to them back and do the shorter ones really quick. Salesperson Judy Jones has found the perfect house for herself. She learns that the owner may be interested in selling, so she introduces herself and is allowed to make listing presentation. She gets a listing for her brokerage after presenting a CMA, competitive market analysis, that emphasizes the lowest priced homes in the neighborhood. As a result of the competitive market analysis, CMA, the seller decides on a relatively low asking price. Judy immediately presents a full price offer from her cousin, but does not reveal the relationship to the seller. Oh boy. The offer is accepted by the seller. A few days after the sale closes, Judy buys the property from her cousin. Oops. Judy's conduct is what? A, acceptable because she did not purchase the property directly from the seller. B, acceptable because Judy presented valid sales data and allowed the seller to determine the asking price. C, unacceptable because Judy should have waited at least 6 months before buying the property from her cousin. Or D, unacceptable as a violation of her fiduciary obligations to her principal, to her seller, to her client. Okay, so she did a comparable, right? And she learns that the owner may be interested in selling. So she introduces herself, does a CMA, competitive market analysis, and that emphasizes the lowest priced homes. Wow. We're supposed to show, okay, current sales within the last 3 to 6 months, depending on how fast the market is changing, and with similar properties. If we only select the lowest, we're not doing the best for our client. We are not doing our fiduciary responsibility. So Deborah says 107D. Anybody else? Going once, twice, gone. 107D is correct. Yeah, I was typing F. Fail, fail, fail. Wrong, wrong, wrong. We can't be doing that. When we do a competitive market analysis, competitive means we're doing active, we're doing pending, and we're doing sold within the last 3 to 6 months. If the market is moving like weekly, then in the last 30 days. So competitive because we want them to see who their competitors are, other properties that are on the market that haven't sold yet, other properties that went pending to see how long it took for them to go pending and what price they're on, and properties that sold compared to theirs and see how long it took for them to sell and whether they sold at a lower price than the original listing price. All those points are important in order to determine what is the best list price for this seller. Now, we also need to know that the seller, what is the urgency for the seller? Do they want to be out in 30 days? And do they want to be out in 6 months? So depending on the time frame of the sale, the seller might say, well, I don't want to show it at list it at the lowest right now because I need 3 months or 6 months to get out of here. So let's test the market. If it's priced too high, don't take the listing. Okay, show them the statistics, show them the data, show them the graphs to let them know what is the best list price to get their property sold in the quickest time and get them the most money. Sometimes if we list it a little bit lower, we'll create a frenzy and competition, and they're going to get multiple offers in a seller market that are above list price. Many sellers at this time got offers that are above list price. All right, 108. One found guilty of a violation of the Texas Deceptive Trade Practice Act will face which of the following consequences? Guilty of a violation of the Deceptive Trade Practices of the Texas Deceptive Trade Practices Act. So you're being deceptive, what of our trade, real estate services, right? What will they face? A, loss of his real estate license, his or her real estate license, jail time, and punitive damages equal to twice the actual damage. B, and these damages actually have gone higher than what they were, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Well, not about 10 years ago. B, the possibility of being assessed treble damages. C, will automatically be assessed treble damages. D, civil penalties equal to 3 times the amount of damages plus criminal penalties up to $50,000. So take a moment to see which you think is the correct answer. Type it in, and in the moment, I'm going to look up the current oops. Ooh. Texas Deceptive Trade Practices Act current fees. So anybody? Let's see, Deborah says D. I'm trying to see which transaction. I'm trying to see real quickly what the current, so treble damages is what? 3 times economic damages and mental anguish if you can prove that violation. I'm trying to see what, today's fees are. I haven't looked that up. Tell you what, I do everything possible not to have to pay any fees by doing the right thing. So I just want to show you on, see if I can find it. What is the penalty for practicing real estate without a license? Yeah, so that one says up to 5,000, can reach up to 5,000 for a felony, typically up to about 1,000. However, you can also get jail time. In addition or apart from any jail or prison sentence, court can also impose a fine if you are convicted of the unauthorized practice of real estate. So number 108 is B. It's not 50,000. That is a high fee. Okay. And so I wanted to find the exact one. The actual answer is B, the possibility of being assessed treble damages. Okay. So 108B, and let me look up the details so that I can be able to share that with you online. Yes, it's 5,000, as you can see on here, not 50,000. Okay. So let me find treble current. Gosh, I probably should go just to the Trek website. Okay, let me okay, Texas. If any of you are on your computer, you can help me look for this. Trouble fees. Deceptive Practice Acts. What are the penalties for unlicensed brokerage activities? It's not necessarily that what we're looking for, but it does take us to the Trek website. Let's see, penalties. Frequent questions is a starter. So let me type on here, treble charges, treble damages. Boy, ain't that something? Treble fees. Okay. So how does it violation fees? Gee, sometimes you have to know exactly what to ask for. Let's see here. Agency information. Gosh. Fees for violations. Trek rules. I'm not finding the fees as easy as I thought I would. So I'll post them later. Okay. But you can get treble charges. So you can be charged, you know, a jail time, punitive damages, and up to 5,000. Okay. So the answer was 108B. Sorry that I don't have the detail of what the current is, but it's not 50,000. Okay. All right. Number 109. Which of the following does the Texas Real Estate Commission not have authority to do? A, hire an administrator to supervise the activities of the employed staff at the Texas Real Estate Commission, known as TREC. B, initiate an investigation of a licensee upon a signed complaint submitted by an unhappy consumer of real estate brokerage services. C, command the production of documents and appearances of witnesses of hearing conducted by it. And D, increase the education requirements for a person desiring a broker license. So what does TREC not have the authority to do? So can TREC hire administrator to supervise activities of employed staff at TREC? Can they initiate an investigation of a licensee upon a signed complaint? Can they command the production of documents and the appearance of witnesses for hearings by it? Or can they increase the education requirements for a person desiring a broker license? So which one do you think? Oh, I should enlarge that. Sorry about that. Okay, the answer here is 109D. They cannot increase the education requirements for a person desiring a broker license. The TREC only has the authority to administer the provisions of the Texas Real Estate License Act, known as TRELA. Education requirements are established by the legislature and are a part of the Texas Real Estate License Act, known as TRELA. So it's not up to TREC. It goes to the legislature and the Texas Real Estate License Act. Last question of the day, 110. The maximum tenancy that may be addressed in a Texas Real Estate Commission seller's or buyer's temporary lease is A, 180 days, B, 90 days, C, 48 days, 48 hours, or D, 72 hours. My gosh, we read something and we say something else, right? Or I should say I do. So how long can a temporary lease be by a seller or a buyer during a contract after, before or after a contract, a property closes? 180 days, B, 90 days, C, 48 hours, or D, 72 hours. So if you've got a seller that needs to lease back the property after they sell it, what is the maximum amount of time that they can lease that property from the new owner? And vice versa. How long can a buyer lease a property prior to closing with the seller? There's a maximum allowable time. So type your answer. Nadea says 90 days. Deborah said D. I would take another chance, Deborah. That is not the correct answer. 72 hours, would be, 3 days. However, sometimes a seller or a buyer needs to lease for longer than that. So take another chance. Much better. Yes, the answer is 110B. It's 90 days. I've never experienced it. However, I have had a seller lease back for, a couple of weeks, or a buyer needing to move in prior to close, which I typically do not advise the seller to do. But what happens there is the seller has to convert their insurance to a landlord insurance and lease the property to the buyer prior to move in. So it is 90 days, 3 months. Okay, so that's it we have finished the 4 exams on the, let me show you which book we were on. We were on this book, the 2006 Real Estate Sales Exam, 4th edition. Okay, and this book is in our AgentPrep Facebook page under guides or under other files. Sometimes I do add the link into the YouTube video. It might be on there today, and you can download this book. It's free. Okay, it's been on the cloud, on the web for years. Several of my students recommended it to me years ago, and I continue to use it because it's an excellent source, and current realtors that used it to pass their exams said they loved it. It's awesome because it has, 4 exams. It has review. So the exams, will also have the questions that are answered. And they have really good explanation. So you see, you want a book, a prep book. This is a prep book that explains the answers so that you can understand it if for some reason you get it wrong. And then after the answers, it has a review of all the questions, be it national and state. Let's say you took the exam and you had a weakness of standard of conducts. Then you go and read and study these questions, 82, 87, 92, 97, 103, 106. If you have a weakness on special topics, you go back to that exam and review these questions and read the answer so that you can better understand it. It has glossary, lots and lots of vocabulary from A to Z. And it has a refresher course. It has math review. It gives you preparation. It shows you what you need to do for preparing for the exam. And it tells you a little bit about the Texas real estate sales exam. So it is an excellent source. I'll be looking for another one, a new one to also use for 2022 as I will continue to do these classes. I do these classes twice a week on Wednesday evenings at 6 o'clock and Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock. And I'll either do vocabulary, state questions, or national questions. So remember, you guys, I have a YouTube channel, YouTube AgentPrep. I ask you to make my day and go and subscribe to my channel, like the video, and click the little bell so that you get notified every time that I post a video. You can also go to our Facebook group and view all the documents from there, on our Facebook group. This is our Facebook. So Deborah was watching on the Facebook group. And from there, when you go to the main page, the main dashboard, you click on guides. And under guides, I have 14 guides and I uploaded different documents. So the first one, it has to do about learning about eXp Realty as a sponsor that you may select. We're not for everybody. However, we're an excellent choice for anybody who gets started in real estate. eXp has excellent benefits when you're ready to talk about that and you start looking at at brokerages, because you're going to be contacted by a whole bunch. Let's talk about eXp. You have vocabulary on Guide 2. Guide 3 is the book that I want you to download. Texas Real Estate Sales Guide Exams. It's in Guide 3. It's a PDF. So you'll have to click on that. And then you see the PDF right here. And you click on that again, and it'll download it onto your computer. It'll download it and show it as a PDF. So it takes a couple of steps, but it's easier than for you having to search for it on the internet. And then I have an exam prep cheat sheet and test taking tips. The night before the exam, test taking tips, study sheet, acronyms that you want to know, like TREC, Texas Real Estate Commission, TRELA, Texas Real Estate Licensing Act, T-TIP, title, time, title, interest, possession stands for T-TIP, is one of the types of ownerships, joint tenancy It's T-tip. You have to buy it at the same time, take title the same way, interest and possession. Property ownership, there's 4 different types of property ownership. Then it has national exam reviews, math reviews, so that you know the definitions, the formulas and how to work them. Learn about the different types of estates, okay, life estates. So estates, real estate means you have an interest in real property. And real property is what? Land and all the improvements. The Fair Housing Act, learn about that. Contracts, and I'll be uploading the latest contract on there. This one is already outdated. Closing disclosures, which is the settlement statement that has the debits and the credits, all the expenses and that the buyer and seller have. And then principles of agencies. You had 2 books that you studied about, and then other practice exams. So take advantage of the resources that I have on the real estate group. This is a private group. We now have 800 members. Yippee! And we're growing and growing. A lot of these students have been with me a long time. Many still want to pass. So never, 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 never give up. Okay. Always keep going. And so with that said, hey, thank you for attending and you have an awesome day. Catch you later.